You've seen satire everywhere, right? On TV and books, all over the internet. It's that sharp, witty stuff that makes you laugh, but also, makes you think. So, what is it, really? Well, today we're going to trace its incredible journey, all the way from an ancient philosophical idea to a modern cultural battleground.
All right, so let's rewind way back. Our story actually starts in ancient Greece with the philosopher Aristotle. In his famous work, Poetics, he was one of the very first people to really break down comedy. He described the ridiculous as this kind of flaw or ugliness that was basically harmless. It's a pretty fascinating place to start, right? The idea that laughter is just born from noticing imperfection.
Okay, now let's fast forward a couple thousand years, and whoa, the definition gets a lot sharper. See, satire isn't just about harmless fun anymore. It's about using humor as a tool. You could even say it's a weapon, a way to expose and criticize. It's like holding up one of those funhouse mirrors to society's biggest flaws, especially when you're talking about politics and power. So, to really get into all of this, here's our game plan. We'll start with that initial idea of ridiculous ugliness, then jump into the great debate over what satire is even for. After that, we'll see it become a weapon for the people, look at its struggle under censorship, and finally reflect on its role as a mirror of truth. So let's kick things off with that foundational idea from Aristotle. Is satire really just about pointing out the flawed, kind of ugly parts of being human just to get a laugh? Or is there something deeper going on? And that right there, that is the central question people have been wrestling with for centuries. Is satire just a harmless occupation, like Aristotle said? Or does it have a bigger, maybe even a moral responsibility? This question really kicks off a huge philosophical debate about its true purpose.
Which brings us right into our next section, the Great Debate. This is where the conversation about what satire is supposed to do really heats up, with different thinkers offering some radically different views on its role in the world.
So you have the French theorist Nicolas Boileau, who had a completely different take. For him, satire wasn't about some harmless ugliness at all. Nope. He saw it as a moral force. Its true purpose, he believed, was to promote kindness and goodwill by, calling out whatever stood in their way. That's a huge leap from just laughing at mistakes. And boom, right there you can see this fundamental tension. On one side, you've got Aristotle's idea of satire as just this harmless observation, and on the other, Boileau's vision of it as an active tool for making the world a better place. Honestly, this divide has pretty much defined the conversation about satire ever since.
Then you get thinkers like Karl Marx, who saw it in even grander terms. For Marx, comedy was basically the final curtain call for old, outdated ideas. He believed society had to laugh at its past in order to finally move on. So in this view, satire becomes this engine of social progress, helping us cheerfully shut the door on whatever is holding us back.
Anything this powerful is going to be hard to pin down. What is satire anyway? Theorists have never really agreed. Is it a literary genre? Is it an artistic method? A specific tone? A form of criticism? Or is it something even bigger, like a whole ideological principle? The truth is, it's probably a little bit of all of them. Okay, let's pivot now from all this abstract theory to the real world. In our third section, A Weapon for the People, we're going to see how satire went from being a philosophical debate to a powerful real-world tool for change. And we've got a fascinating case study for this. Satire as a tool for critique is nothing new. Its legacy goes all the way back to the ancient Greek playwright Aristophanes, through Renaissance giants like Cervantes and Swift, and that same legacy leads us to 19th century Azerbaijan, where a writer named Mirza Fatali Akhundzadeh picked up this very weapon to take on the problems of his own society. This quote from Akhundzadeh just nails his perspective. He wasn't just writing to entertain people. He saw satire, what he called criticism, as the most effective way to educate the public and reform society. For him, laughter had a serious moral and civic duty. So why did he think it was so powerful? Well, Akhundzadeh basically argued that you can ignore a dry sermon, but satire, with its powerful arsenal of irony, sarcasm, and farce, it just cuts through our defenses. It reveals uncomfortable truths in a way that's impossible to ignore because it's engaging and it sticks with you. And this new wave of Azerbaijani satire, it really hit its peak in the poetry of Mirza Alekper Sabir. His work became the gold standard for the movement, cementing satire's place as a cornerstone of the nation's entire literary identity.
But what happens when this incredibly powerful form of expression comes up against an even more powerful political force? Well, our fourth section, Laughter Under Cages, gets into that clash between Azerbaijan's vibrant satirical tradition and the iron fist of state control. Before the crackdown, the whole spirit of this movement was captured in this legendary magazine called Mullah Nasruddin. It was so sharp, totally fearless, and just hugely influential. It was way more than a publication. It became a symbol of cultural identity and defiance.
And then, everything changed. When the Soviet Union came to power, the free press was just gone. Honest, critical portrayals of society were silenced. All of a sudden, the people's weapon was seized by the state, and this heavy blanket of censorship just fell over this incredibly rich tradition. Now, satire didn't just vanish completely. It was repurposed. See, authoritarian regimes are smart. They know that just banning satire can make it even more powerful, turning it into a symbol. A smarter move is to co-opt it. The state decided what was okay to laugh at, turning satire's power against its own official enemies. The so-called class enemies, reactionaries, and anyone they called an alien element. The mirror of truth was now only allowed to point where the state told it to. And that brings us to our final section, where we can kind of zoom out and reflect on the ultimate purpose of satire. After being debated and weaponized and censored, what does it truly represent? The journey we've just traced is pretty remarkable when you think about it. Satire starts as this philosophical concept for looking at human flaws. It grows into a powerful tool for social reform. Then it's forced to fight for its very survival against authoritarian control. And through all of that, it endures. So, what have we learned? Well, that satire is so much more than just making fun of things. It is a mirror, showing us exactly who we are, flaws and all. It's education, challenging us to be better. And when it has to be, it's resistance, a way to speak truth to power, even when that truth is dangerous. And that really leaves us with one last question. In our own time, with our own unique challenges and absurdities, what reflection do we see when satire holds up its mirror? What is it trying to teach us, and what is it resisting? That is something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.